Are you part of the problem? Are you part of the solution? This is a problem you need to ask yourself, because we all know, many of us know what the real issues are, and yet you and I refuse to change. Now, even those people in the legal profession, because after all, we are talking about the topics, the legal system or the justice system. Are you part of that problem? Ikaw ba nagsusulsul ka ba sa mga piskal? You know, I actually tried that. It's quite difficult. Unless may kilala ka talaga na piskal, I have a hard time understanding kung paano nasusulsulan. Miski yung judge, I guess kung malaki na yung issue at malakas na loob mo at alam mo matatalo ka na, at malaking pera involved or incarceration is involved, saka mayaman ka, I guess lalakas loob ako, babayaran ko yung judge, susubukan ko. So, then again, I'm part of that problem. And talking about the solutions, which are hopefully still plausible, possible. How about Attorney Brillantes? What's your take on Rene's point of view? Solutions.
Rene spoke of reforming the police force, which is one
The
of
three
the
pillars,
pillars
yes.
of the justice system. He spoke of the incompetence of the evidence-gathering skills of the police. But that is not only the problem. The problem also of the police fabricating evidence. And I have personal experience of cases I've handled of police who have planted evidence.
Grabe.
And that is injustice. How many people have been victims of police who have fabricated evidence, and because of poverty, they end up being convicted. Now, out of desperation, perhaps the people have embraced this desperate measure.
We're all desperate at this point.
This desperate measure of killing criminals. The problem is that it fails to consider that people are driven to take the path of criminality because of poverty and injustice. Killing criminals does not address the root causes of criminality. And that is why I never believed that President Duterte will be able to end crime in 3 to 6 months unless we address the root causes of criminality, which is poverty and injustice. Who are these people who are being killed? They spoke that funeral parlors will have a killing because in their business. But even funeral parlors are complaining because these people who are killed are very poor and do not even have the means. So these are the poor people who are driven to take the path of criminality.
So
we have to address the root causes of crime. We have to address the root causes of poverty. Only can we make a significant solution to the problem not only of crime, but also to the problem of corruption. And that is precisely the reason why we have to reform the justice system. It is because crime, among others, can be rooted to...
Ano unahin natin? Magtayo ng trabaho? Gumawa ng trabaho para kumita ang taong bayan? O unahin muna natin yung justice system? Ano suggestion
we have
mo?
to address both. But for a lasting...
If you have to prioritize...
For a lasting solution to the problem that we wish to address, which is criminality, we have to address the root causes of crime, which is poverty and injustice. People who are victims of injustice would take the law into their own hands. Gano'ng katagal na bang nagpapatayan ang mga NPA, ang MNLF at ang ating military? And there is no end to it unless we address the root causes of insurgency. And it's the same thing with criminality. That is why I believe...
ano unahin natin? Ano suggestion? Isasabay, hindi ata kaya sabay-sabayan. Yung budget, puputok. Ano unahin natin? Economic
I think there's no
improvement?
reason that you cannot do these things simultaneously. No? The justice system is actually a very small portion of the budget. No? In fact, the judiciary...
It's only 20B. Well, it's 20B at this point, but it's not that. Miski bigay mo naman sa Supreme Court. Yung Supreme Court, hindi bumababa ang pera. Have you seen the courts in the provinces? It's atrocious. And then have you seen how many In Pampanga, that's Metro Manila, kulang ng judges. Ayaw lagyan ng Korte Suprema ng mga judge para at the end of the year, sa kanila, silang kukubra ng pera
Well,
para sa kanila.
Exactly. This is why all of these things are this is why there are all of these problems with the justice system. So this is what you must address. No?
How do we address the justice system? How do we do first? Sabay-sabay. Yung police, yung jail system, well, alam natin, yung Muntinlupa is already a spa and a country club. So, and they also have
For
their own
important
business.
prisoners.
For important prisoners. And also, they're now production. Di ba? May drug production na sila sa loob as evidenced by, as seen by everybody on TV and the print, di ba? But on the judiciary, how do you reform a system that is independent of the executive? I mean, these people, when they get up there, meron silang racket doon. If not, they don't want to appoint judges. They don't do anything, di ba? The ones in the Supreme Court. It only takes them 100, 200 years before they resolve any case. Parang ganun lumalabas sa Supreme Court eh. How do you resolve people who refuse reform? I mean, I don't know. How do you reform the Supreme Court? I think it's got to start with the Supreme Court going down. Hindi pwede down going up.
Of course, we have to realize that the problem is not only the person, reforming the person, making the person more moral, because corruption, crime, and everything has structural causes. And we have to address the structural causes of why there is no justice in our.
Well, we've identified with
For
the
instance,
police
if we
training, you said.
When we speak of corruption, for instance, it is not. We all heard this story. A person enters government very clean and ends up corrupt because the system corrupts. Lord Acton says power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, there are structural causes of corruption. For instance, lack of transparency in government transactions. If there is something happening behind this wall, we cannot do anything because we don't see. There's no transparency. But assuming this is a transparent and we can see what's happening behind this wall, but there is no people participation in decision making, and we cannot intervene, then we cannot also prevent corruption. So in other words, we have to address the problem is not only the person, that the person lacks morality. The problem is the system. We have to address the structural causes of corruption. One problem is the delay in the administration of justice.
Not only that, judges.
I go from one court to another, and there are cases in the calendar, 40 cases a day.
Yeah. But
So-
I've seen judges go against the law,
Yes.
making decisions that is illegal. I've seen those things happen.
Yes.
You remember, no less, Justice Secretary, sinabihan siya when GMA was flying out, sinabihan na siya ng Supreme Court. Napapanood natin sa television live eh. And binastos niya Supreme Court. She still goes out and she holds GMA. You remember that? And then she says, hindi, I didn't get that memorandum from the Supreme Court. And they are side by side, literally. They're neighbors, physical. Diba? The Court of Appeals or DOJ next to the Supreme Court. Right there and then, bastusan. She gets away with it and now she's a sitting senator. Abogado pa siya, hindi tinanggal sa kanya lisensya niya. We've got a system that's obviously broken. It's all broken, it seems, from all seams and all sides. Di ba? Parang ganun ang malala na eh. It goes down to the economics, you're saying. Okay, because the people... But in other countries where they have poor people, do they shoot each other as well? I guess they do, no? Third world countries. Ganun din ang problema. But how do you fix a system like this, like the Philippines right now? Duterte is doing a marvelous job with just the perception of him being the strong arm. Just the perception of him being the leader, there's already movement. I enjoy what's happening. I truly enjoy it. Now, I hope it goes into the judiciary. But how does that go into the judiciary if that is totally independent? You said transparency. The freedom of information would have been signed already. That's one part of the executive. The legislative, oh, that's another bunch. That's another thing we should talk about. But then again, with the CONCON coming up and whatnot, that's going to be a very funny, that's going to be quite a story, you know?
Well, Attorney Brillantes is right in the sense that the people need to be involved. No? If there is no outrage, and there is none, no, then things will not change.
But there is for the
beauty-
drugs, if you notice. Everyone's supporting it. It's only very few that are actually...
No, but outrage means that you scrutinize and you protest. No, whether this is a illegal decision or there's a case which is, my friend Rene Sagisag has a case which is 30 years already in the Supreme Court, the Lenny Villa case. No? Sabi niya, 30 years na sa Supreme Court.
She's out singing. yeah.
But
30 years na.
the point is, the public has to be outraged at things like this so that there is a compulsion or impetus for change.
But what
no?
do you do when you have a people who are parang we don't want to complain anymore? We're scared to complain or we don't care to
then
complain?
things will not change. I mean, that's exactly what's happening to us with respect to the electoral reform thing. People aren't outraged. So
Yeah, people aren't outraged.
Nothing is going to happen.
Smartmatic will run the next election again as
Yeah.
usual, and
But
these jokers are going to run the elections again, the COMELEC, di ba?
But in fact, the more fundamental cause, I think, no, of the reason why there is very little impetus for change is intra-elite competition. No? Our society is controlled by a small elite, no, and essentially,
Patayin na natin mga mayayaman.
essentially,
Pareho na mga, yung pobre, pinapatay natin sa drugs, ipatayin na natin mga mayayaman, baka pumalit.
essentially,
I'm just going to extremes.
What essentially happens is that each election cycle simply brings in another elite group. So there is no impetus to change the system because we'll just wait. 6 years from now, it will be
Palit
our
na
turn.
naman. Yeah.
It will be our turn, and
Tabi naman.
we will have the ability to plunder
Yeah.
the system. No, so why will we change it? No, this is a problem, and therefore the Filipino masses, no, us, no, have to rise up and stand up for our rights.
So-
But until we do that, the possibility of change. Attorney
So
Brillantes
the
said-
problem really is the people.
Uh,
That's what it is. Tayo may problema. Yung taong bayan, ang problema, kaya the
Hindi.
country is broken.
Hindi, sila ang problema. Kaya nagpe-persist yung problema na yun.
Kasi walang ginagawa ang taong bayan.
Hindi tayo
Tumatayo.
hindi tayo lumalaban.
Hindi tayo lumalaban. You agree with that?
I agree, yes. Day in and day out, we hear of drugs, we hear of killings of drug addicts, pushers, and drug lords. But drugs are not only the problem of the Philippines. I agree that there must be an outrage also on the courts, which does not, where the people do not obtain justice. Only then that perhaps government will act. If the people protest, if the people express their outrage, and point out what is it in the justice system that has to be reformed.
Do you believe in President Duterte that he can actually effect change? Ikaw, Rene.
I think
He's been successful to this time. Oh.
I think I think what he has demonstrated so far is political will. At least it seems to be, no. And if he has political will, then that goes a lot towards. And apparently, he's not
The voice of the people
part
through him.
part of the elite.
Well, thank God
Yeah.
we're gone with Noy Noy, so that's out.
So there is a chance, no. The justice system itself can actually be corrected by the Supreme Court, by the Chief Justice. The power to correct.
Tao ni Noy Noy yun
Well,
si Sereno.
No. But that's why the people have to be outraged, no? Because
Ah.
the Chief Justice can institute new procedures. She can.
She can.
She can put in new courts.
She can.
All the executive needs to do is to give the funding for new courts,
Yeah.
better training, more prosecutors, better systems, etc. So that there is at least a chance that the justice system will work
Sino ba
better. no?
tumuturo sa police? Yung mga the legal part, the justice system ba? Or completely independent? Hindi, no?
Tumuturo.
For example, tumuturo sa mga evidence and whatnot. O that's the police force, which is independent. But it's part and parcel of the justice system. Because enforcement yan eh.
Yeah, they're the ones who solve the crimes.
Where
bring
do they
them to
get their
the-
training and their know-how? From
Supposedly the PNP.
the
The
PNP.
PNP Academy, no?
So, inutil yung PNP Academy since sabog-sabog ang trabaho nila.
Well, I would assume that you need to institute better training methods, better screening
Malaking
procedures, better systems. Obviously, this will need also more funds. No? But, I mean, if you're going to address this, gawin mo.
We're running out of time. You know, we've been talking 45 minutes and we've barely scraped the top of the barrel about the real issues. But then again, it seems we're going to be attending to all of this sooner or later. And before we have to close the show, what would be your message? Let's start with Attorney Severo Brillantes towards the issue called the justice system.
I believe political will is not enough. Strong arm tactics are not enough. Together with political will, the President must have a clear program on how to address the root causes of crime, corruption, criminality, and the broken justice system. Unless there is a clear program for that, I believe President Duterte will fail and will not be able to fulfill his promise of change. Because we do not just want change. We want significant change, something that will affect social transformation in our country.
Thank you very much. Rene, what will be your exit?
Well, I don't think anyone will deny that the problem is massive, no? And it will take a massive effort to change, whether it's the law enforcement, judiciary, correction system, all of these things that have to do with the justice system. No? This will be a massive effort, but it can be done, except that there, as Attorney Brillantes pointed, there has to be the will, there has to be the commitment to at least start, no? Start introducing programs and systems and activities that will lead to an improvement in the justice system. The lawyers, you know, this is a lawyer-riddled country. You know, so many supposedly brilliant lawyers. They know what's wrong. They know what needs to be done. No? We just need to get them to do it. And I think until the people rise up in utter outrage, then probably they will tend not to do anything. No? The media is part of it. The media is
Part
in
of the
itself
problem.
is part of the problem,
And,
because the media is corrupt, and the media is well, part of the system. No?
Well, we're going to have to end the show. It is very clear that we have a president with a strong arm. It is clear he's a strong person, and it's clear he's got his head on straight. But the real problem is what we need is a super president. What we need is short of an Iron Man or a Captain America of sorts. A man with superpowers to be able to handle all these things. Now, either he becomes that super being, which is, unless this is all animation, or we help him become that super being. Basically, the gist of the conversation in the last hour obviously points out to the fact that the fault remains with us all, simply because we don't do anything about it. So don't look at me. you are the problem. We just happen to talk about it. Now, that's a bit heavy, isn't it? Thank you very much.
Okay.
A little sarcastic. A little sarcastic, but next week, it's on the Sona. This will be replayed also after.
You are what you watch.